Okay, hello. So previous video I came out with was talking about a Trampleslide build for the Druid. I called it somewhat of a storm variant because I did incorporate storm or two storm abilities and then a couple storm passives in here. However, I have tweaked it some. I'm going a little bit of a different route this time. This is primarily an earth focused build. However, we still utilize some of the nature and earth abilities here, the nature magic that is, which counts as both storm and earth, and we're still taking advantage of a storm generator, and that's just because we end up getting procs. I'll go through the whole thing as we go, though. I don't want to get into much detail right now. So let's just take a look at the talents here to get a breakdown. So we're taking Wind Shear. I opted to go ahead and go with Wind Shear right now. It's not as satisfying to me to use as a spell as Storm Strike. However, in higher difficulties of Nightmare Dungeons, being ranged really helps just survivability and such. So you can always opt into Storm Strike if you prefer. I would recommend going with Fierce Storm Strike here for the vulnerable. However, right now I'm just going with Wind Shear, and we're taking the extra spirit. If you're not too concerned about extra spirit, you can always just swap this over to movement speed. It doesn't really make a difference. Really up to the user there, okay? As we come down, we go ahead and we take these two just for the spirit generation as well as the core damage. Obviously, we're taking Landslide. This is a Trampleslide build, so we do take that. And I have done some testing, and I believe that Primal Landslide works out better than Raging Landslide. So I'd always recommend to use that. I do take one tick here. Gives me a little bit extra crit, but it allows me to pick up 9% damage reduction in Werebear form. What's really nice, too, is this persists for 3 seconds after leaving Werebear, because we do often fall out of our Werebear form when we're using Wind Shear with this build, so it's really nice that it has that added benefit to it. So now moving down, I do take Earthen Bulwark. This is one of our key survival abilities. It does also allow us to become unstoppable, which allows us to get out of crowd control. That's one of the biggest things that was killing me in Nightmare Dungeons, is just getting a really tough elite mob with like the frozen aspect, things like that. And so unstoppable is just very important in higher difficulties. As we go down, I do go ahead and pick up these two passives. Now, you could move these around, but I couldn't find a better place for them. And what it does, just gives you 9% increased damage to distance. Since we use our trample, you end up being meeting the threshold of distant on quite a few mobs that end up being like lower level mobs or like non-elites. So just a nice little additive. And then since our generator transformed us into a human every time we use it, this is just added spirit generation. It's a 6 spirit generation every time we swap with Wind Shear. I'll kind of break down the usage of it here in a second. Moving on, though, I go ahead and I take all 3 of these. They just add damage to our earth spells based on our fortify, things like that. Obviously, we're taking trample, and I do take a natural trample here for just more fortify. This build is really built around getting fortify, and when you're charging into a group of elites, you're exposing yourself, so having that extra fortify is really nice. Moving down, I do take these 3 talents. This one especially, Resonance, helps us get a decent little multiplier on our spells. And that's kind of the weaving. This is part of the weaving aspect for our spells that I use. So now I don't take Circle of Life. There is a legendary aspect that can go, I believe, on your chest or your legs. And when you fortify yourself, or rather when you heal yourself but you're at 100% health, it'll generate a barrier. So this is we actually end up taking a spirit boon that benefits us with that legendary. But you can also take this if you would like. You could replace perhaps the spirit here, or even the damage, if you wanted a little added survivability with the self heals. Okay, I believe it ends up being like 3% per landslide that you cast, so it's nice. It adds up. Now, do go ahead and take this passive. Since we're often swapping out of human form and back into werebear. Using this allows me to get a 15% increase after I use my generator into a landslide or generator into a trample. So this is really nice, a little extra damage. Now, as far as ultimate skills here, it's really a toss-up. On the previous build, I opted for Petrify over Cataclysm. However, recently I've started trying out Grizzly Rage for strictly like clearing fairly easy content. So just being out in the world or in a normal dungeon with tier 4, you're probably going to be fine taking Petrify. It helps just kind of lock down big groups. You can mop them up really quick. So it is nice. However, with Grizzly Rage, this gives us a third unstoppable, because our Earthen Bulwark makes us unstoppable, as well as our Trample, okay, makes us unstoppable. This is when you're crowd controlled and you essentially need to get out of that crowd control. This is what's going to allow that to happen. So Grizzly Rage in higher Nightmare dungeons, when you're really concerned about crowd control and staying alive, this really helps keep you out of danger. You may not use it in an offensive manner. You're going to use it more in a defensive manner. So just understand that. And again, it's mainly we gain some Fortify when we use it, and you passively generate Fortify as you use it. But it also makes you unstoppable. So that's the key thing there. And then to wrap it up, so in the previous build, I'd gone with Nature's Fury because I was just proccing a lot of nature. I had some of these passive. I was proccing quite a few nature abilities, and they were hitting hard. I was getting some of when I would use Landslide, it would often proc either Tornado or Lightning Storm, and I could see I didn't pay attention too much, but I know I saw an 86,000 crit, which is pretty strong, especially just being something passive that you're not casting. However, right now, since I went a little bit more Earth focus, I'm using the Earthen Might talent. It just gives us a chance to cap out our spirit randomly, and then it gives you guaranteed critical strikes for 5 seconds, which really, even with the build that we're using right now, you could still get plenty of benefit from using Nature's Fury. So this is out of all the options, all of the choices that I've talked about that are kind of up to you, you really can choose between these two, because it's not going, in my opinion, it doesn't make that big of a difference. We really don't struggle with spirit too much in this build, especially how I've built it now. And you're getting critical strikes all the time, which is nice. You're more than often going to get this 10% bonus because we're crit striking so much. We're also often hitting stunned, immobilized, or knockback mobs just because of our passives on our abilities. So again, it's really up to you. I'm gonna still be swapping between these two to test them out to see which one I like more. But yeah, take it as you will. And then obviously you'll see that there are some bonus points into some of these abilities, but the only one that I put talent points into is Landslide. I do cap this out with talent points. And then I ended up putting I didn't put any extra talent points into any other abilities, strictly just Landslide. So just so you're aware, that's the talent build breakdown. We'll take a look at the spirit boons. They're pretty much the same as I was using before. Wariness for 10% damage reduction on elites, 30% critical strike damage. That's huge. Now this one, Fortify for 10% of your maximum life when you use a defensive skill. We are using 2 defensive skills, so I do like this for the survivability. However, you can use Calamity It extends the duration of your ultimate skill by 25%. This lasts for 10 seconds, so you'd end up getting a 2.5 second increase on this. It is what it is. You can really pick between these two, since we do use Grizzly Rage for survivability, especially in higher content. So do with that as you will. Now, I do choose this to the snake to be the one that we bond with, and we are picking up Masochist and Calm Before the Storm. This just gets our ultimate skill back up a little bit more quick, gives us opportunity to have that defensive quicker. And then this obviously, this is what I was talking about before. We get a lot of critical strikes, and this, especially with Trample, when that's going off, you're just generating so many little heals for 3% of your maximum health. So I do plan on picking up a new legendary. It's not in my build right now, but I am going to replace my legs with it. We'll cover that now. Okay, so you have Vasili's Prayer here. This is a must. Moving down, I use Insatiable Fury, which gives us permanent werebear form and +2 ranks to all werebear skills. You do not need to use this if you don't want to. You can actually opt for a legendary. I can't think of it off the top of my head, the name of it, but you have a I think the one that I have is a 0.4% chance, or I can't. It's like every time you attack, you generate armor, stacking up to like 40 or 50%. You could put that in your chest slot for added defensiveness. For right now, though, I'm using permanent werebear and just the extra ranks. For gloves, I go ahead and I use Earth skills, deal critical damage to crowd control. For our pants, now this is the legendary I'm looking to replace right now. Right now, I'm using the Earthen Bulwark extension aspect. However, there, like I said, there's a legendary that every time you heal yourself, but you're already at 100% health, it'll start generating a barrier for up to 80% of your health, which that is just a nice added benefit for defensiveness versus just having an extended Earthen Bulwark that we can replenish. I just don't think we get enough value from this legendary to make it worth it. I also noticed Max Roll is making that change on their pulverized build as well, so it just seems to be the way that we're moving forward. Now, of course, on the boots, we absolutely want Earth skills slow by X amount for X amount of time. Really doesn't matter if it's 30%, 25%. Doesn't matter what the percentage is on this. Obviously, the higher the better. But ideally, just have these because every Earth skill that we use on something will allow it to crowd control them. They'll be considered crowd control, and that's where we're getting a lot of our multipliers from. Okay. Moving on the weapon, I'm still using Trample, the Trampleslide where it procs landslide off of Trample. I do use that on the weapon. I do believe it's still the best one to use for this build on the weapon, so you get the double bonus on the multiplier. For the necklace, I finally got a really good roll on this at 57%. We're using core skills, deal increased damage based on your amount of fortify. Moving down, this is obviously the landslide pillars. Each strike a second time for X amount of damage. It's important. It's vital. And then finally, this is where this is the legendary that I'm keeping that I have seen other builds they don't use, and it's the reason that I still continue to use Wind Shear along with some of our passives, and it's because, as you can read at the top there, casting a storm skill grants your Earth skills 43%, 0.5 critical strike damage for 4 seconds, and that's why when we're doing the rotation, I continue to, I'll left click, throw out a landslide, left click, throw out a landslide, I'll left click, throw out a trample, because we're getting a multiplier on our damage when we use Wind Shear. And that's pretty much, obviously we're using it to generate, but primarily we want the multiplier for storm effects or whatever, all of these things onto our Earth abilities. So we went through this. I'll look at the Paragon board here. So again, I'm still using the copy pasta from Max Roll's pulverized in-game build. it just lines up really well. We both are in bear form. We both do earth damage. We both obviously spend a lot of spirit. So I would still highly recommend using that as a format of where to go with your glyphs, with your boards. But I'm not going to go into detail with that. So I think that pretty much sums up the build. Don't think there's anything else to cover. I'll probably try to stream a little bit on YouTube. Those end up being saved as a video on my stream. You'll have to kind of hunt through my YouTube. I don't think I have them going anywhere specific. But if you want to see some gameplay of the build, I do already have some gameplay up from my previous Storm variant. But this again is more focused on Earth. So yep, and that's all I've got for today. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments section. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And if you did like the video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps. I had a lot of success with the previous video, so I wanted to go ahead and get this out and see if I can ride that success train. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.